Hello and welcome to this Let's Play in Humankind. We are playing on the Humankind difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. We have a world here with 3 continents, where we are sort of in the middle part of the world on one of the southerly continents. There are 6 competitors, which means 2 players per continent, so we will have to overcome 1 player here in the early game to establish ourselves. We are going to be starting in the Neolithic era here, where our focus is going to be on gathering food and getting out of the Neolithic era within around 7 turns with whatever culture that we decide to go for. So we'll be going in the southern direction here to follow this river downwards in the hopes of finding food, sanctuary, that sort of stuff to grow our nation. So let's get going here. Oh, this is a very good find that there's a sanctuary this early on, because it allows us to go on here and actually burn this down and get a new unit on turn 2, which you can see appearing right here. So we just found another sanctuary after exploring in the eastern direction here, which is another very good find because it's going to get us to a 3rd unit here on turn 4. We get a very good event here called a World Aflame. It's not very good for the people involved, obviously, but for us it means that we actually get to have a group of refugees appear next to our hunting party. So we will be going for that. The other good thing that happened right here is that we found a mammoth, which will be very good for us to fight here. So the other thing that we find as we are positioning ourselves here for a good attack on this mammoth is that we actually find Lake Hylia here, which gives us a little bit of extra stability as well as money, which is very good. And we also find a number of additional mammoths here that we can go after in the future. But for now, we're going to engage in this fight here against this mammoth. We have some pretty favorable terrain here. We have this tile. And then this mammoth is going to be sitting on a river tile or even further downhill from us. So let's go for it. I think this is a reasonable deployment. It depends on where this mammoth will end up deploying. If it ends up deploying on this tile, we'll be in a decent position. If it ends up deploying somewhere else, then we'll have to figure it out. The mammoth did end up deploying downhill here for me. So I'm going to be attacking it here with this very attractive attack, doing 33 damage, and then we can consider this attack, although the mammoth is likely to go for this attack, so we're going to be staying defensive here, as I thought that the mammoth would go for these guys, so that's a very good outcome. We can go for another one of our downhill attacks here to do a huge amount of damage. And then we're going to be staying like this because we have 1 more round and the mammoth will be doing another attack and then actually ends up dying there. So we end up getting here an additional 10 food, which is very good. And then next turn we saw another mammoth over here that we can go after and attack to get an additional 10 food, as well as a little bit more influence here. Over here things are also going pretty well. We have an option with this unit to take an additional unit over here, which is excellent news. So we're going to go for that. And then we end up getting all the 5 units that we need to advance to the next era on turn 5, which is also a very good outcome here. With this new unit that spawned, we're going to aim to get to this tile so that we can put our first outpost here, because the amount of food that we can get from this outpost is quite incredible. You can see the spring has 4 food on it, we have an additional spring, and then we have these 2 rivers here as well. And we are likely to be picking the Harappans, who get additional food yields from river tiles. And then we have a very good expansion here for their emblematic district, because it unlocks another spring here as well as a few additional river tiles. So that's why we're going to pull this unit out of this army and get it onto this river, so next turn we can put our outpost right here. For now we're not going to pick a culture because the potential for additional units is still quite high. We have this unit that has 10 food, we have this unit that has 10 food and an option to attack this mammoth next turn. We have another unit here that has 10 food that could go in this direction and find some food down here. Plus we also want to actually capture our outpost for now. So there's no reason to advance and many reasons to stay, which is why we're going to make that decision. So this mammoth that was over here actually ended up placing itself right here. So we're going to go for this attack on the mammoth. We have a good deployment zone in that we can pick these two tiles. The mammoth also has a fairly good tile here. So we'll see where it deploys because these other three tiles are much worse for it. So we're going to go for this attack and then move this unit up here. So the mammoth ends up deploying on this river tile, which is a really good outcome because this tile is weak from both this attack as well as this attack. So both of our units can get a very good attack here. So we're going to move this unit and do this attack. Do about 16 damage here and then also do this downhill attack. Let's see what this mammoth ends up doing. Okay, it moves over here, does an uphill attack. So what we're going to do here is take advantage of these two tiles that are uphill from the mammoth. So we'll switch this unit onto this tile and then we'll switch this unit onto this tile and wait for these attacks until the units are next to each other to get the +1 from friendly units in terms of combat strength. So we're going to go for this attack downhill and end up killing the mammoth, which gets us an additional unit right here, which is a really good outcome. We're going to put down the outpost right here, and we will not pick this tile which the game is suggesting to us. Instead we'll pick this tile because of the additional industry, as well as that this tile is a really good tile for the Harappans canal network, and we're very likely to pick the Harappans here. So that's why we're going to pick this tile here. That ends up revealing a little bit of food here, which would have been good if we had the option of moving this unit onto this food tile here, but we don't, because we'd have to move onto this river and then move on to this. So this is 2 turns, and we actually have to go and pick a culture this turn so that we get the culture that we want. So instead of going over here with this unit, we're going to go up here. So we are just 1 movement point away from actually being able to get 8 units instead of 7 units, but we're not going to be able to make it because if we don't go and pick a culture this turn, we are not going to be able to pick the culture that we actually want. We actually have an option to attack this mammoth, and the reason to do it is not because of the food that we might get from this mammoth, because this unit currently has no food on it, but instead it's because of the influence that we will actually get from killing this mammoth. So that's why we're going to go for it. Would have been great if we were able to actually pick up this food on the way, but it's just not going to be possible. So the mammoth can only deploy in one of these 2 tiles. So we're going to deploy both of our units uphill here, and we'll see which tile this mammoth goes for. If it goes for this tile, then we are going to stay. If it goes for this tile, then we might relocate to here and actually go for a downhill attack. So the mammoth actually ends up coming or deploying on this tile. So we're going to take this tile that has an advantage over the mammoth. If I was to attack right now, I would have 14 combat strength, but instead if I move this unit next to this unit, I actually end up with 15 combat strength from friendly units, and that makes a difference in terms of the amount of damage that we actually will end up doing to this mammoth. This mammoth is already going to end up attacking this unit, most likely, so that's why we're not going to do anything else this turn. So it's unfortunate that this mammoth decided to actually go to this tile because there's no tile with an advantage over it. So we'll just have to step down here and actually start attacking it with both of our units here and spread the damage that we do to it. And then we'll have to finish it off here. So as you can see, that actually ends up giving us 20 influence here as well as 20 food. Although the 20 food isn't really accurate because it only gave us 10 food right here. And for some reason it actually spread the food between both of these units, which is one of the bugs that's actually in the game. Picking cultures on turn 6 is earlier than I would like to be forced to pick. However, it's very likely that on turn 7 the culture that we will end up wanting here will actually go. In terms of the available cultures, at this part of the game you're going to be looking for as much food as possible to be able to grow population. And you're also looking for an early advantage in combat to maybe take out one of your neighbors. And both of that is offered by the Rapins, because they get +2 food on rivers and +1 food on any tile that's actually producing food. So we're going to have a huge amount of food early on. Plus the canal network is an excellent farmers quarter district, and these runners will give us a very strong free army that has 14 combat strength each. So that's why we're going to pick the Rapins here. Other good picks would be the Egyptians. However, the amount of production that we can get out of the Egyptians right now is actually a lot less than the combination of the science and industry as well as other yields that we'll be able to get out of our population by just having a lot more population. That's why we're going to pick the Rapids here.